Have you ever stopped to think about what resilience truly means for today's younger generation? Is it just about bouncing back from setbacks, or is there something else deeper at play? In worlds that constantly change, like ours, understanding resilience has never been more important. Today, we're diving deep into a thought-provoking discussion on resilience. We'll explore how it's shaped by personal experiences, community support, and the unique challenges faced by youth in modern society. I've 10 engaging questions that will challenge the concept of resilience. Together, me and my son will examine its meaning, the impact of societal trends, and what it truly takes for the younger generation, like my son, to thrive. So let's get started. So guys, as you heard in the introduction, we're going to be talking about a teenager's, or in fact, a young person's perspective, as in my son, who's actually a young adult and a teenager, perspective on a very important subject, and that is resilience. So, like last time, Gabe,
Yeah.
I've produced some questions,
Okay.
and I want to hear your experiences, your beliefs, your knowledge, and how you'd like to purvey things to the people who might be listening to this.
Okay.
So, the first question, Mucker, is what does resilience mean to you, and how has your understanding of it changed over time?
Well, when I was a young boy, in primary school, I was taught that resilience just meant never giving up and always believing in yourself. And I think that covers part of the definition of resilience, but it's not the complete thing, because as I've learned over time, like with you and as I've got older, is that resilience is not just never giving up. It's seeing a problem, forecasting that problem, adapting, improvising, and overcoming to get past that problem. And when you turn back, you're now at the front and you can know what to do.
Yeah, I like that because it's basically seeing problems, maybe before they occur, as actual productive opportunities
Yeah.
instead of potential negative occurrences.
Yeah.
Also, in times of crisis like the pandemic, looking at the opportunities that present themselves instead of dripping about the negative circumstance.
Yeah.
You know, in what ways do you think overprotective parents affects the development of resilience in young people today?
Well, I think resilience is something. Um, sorry, resilience is something that in every person it develops over time. And as you gain more life experience, you encounter more risk, you encounter more problems that don't, maybe don't have a set precedent. You don't know what to do. There's no solution that
Okay, but
has
how does
been.
that relate to overprotective parenting?
Because to develop that resilience, you need to be exposed to risk and you need to be exposed to problems. And with overprotective parenting, sort of the goal with that style of parenting is to prevent risk. It's not risk management; it's risk averse instead,
Mm-hmm.
and that will
Yeah,
hinder
but isn't that some? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
that will hinder a child's development in terms of resilience, because to
Okay.
know how to deal with risk, you need to actually have dealt with it.
Okay. So, what would be a better strategy then? In your experience.
I think, in my experience, I think obviously starting off with, let's go through a child's journey as he or she grows up. Obviously, as a young baby, they need to be protected from all risks because that's obvious. Then, as they develop, as they get older, they need to be exposed to, potentially, as they learn to walk, falling over. Not having someone to catch them when they fall over is a big one. And as they learn how to run, not having someone catch them when they run. You know, when they go and do stupid things like, you know, go on the swings and whatever, not having someone always there to go, oh, it's okay, you know, yeah, you'll be fine. To actually to be exposed to getting hurt when you do stupid stuff on swings and on the playground. Not to a point where they're actually going to seriously injure themselves. You know, there does need to be protection there, but there needs to be a balance between not caring about the child's well-being and also caring too much, because that is real.
Okay. Now, I completely agree with most of that, but as a parent, it's incredibly hard
Yeah.
to think about risk in that way.
Yeah.
So, some of the strategies that I use with both you and your brother Liam, when we've been out in the mountains, we've been climbing, etc.,
Yeah.
is I do a lot of the risk dynamic before we even go out. You know, during the event, yes, I expose you to risk, but only through pushing your capabilities and also analyzing how can we still have fun, what could harm them, how can I mitigate that risk without impacting the fun, but also giving them ownership of levels of that risk.
Yeah.
You know, if you take, for instance, when we went to Trifan back, we could have easily scrambled up that route we did without any ropes.
Yeah.
But because it was your first time and first introduction to lead climbing, we used ropes.
Yeah.
You know, because that was also a teaching point for you to belay your dad.
Yeah.
But it was also a teaching point of gear protection, placement, and gear protection or protection pro selection for placement as well. Yeah. But the overarching factor of that was I understand my capabilities and experience, so I could scarper up it easily. For you to enhance and grow, it's a measured approach. So I took the safer of the two options, putting you on a rope. So then when I got to the first belay point, I could belay you safely, allowing you to focus on climbing and not falling.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So you're absolutely right. Risk exposure is important, but you still need a measured approach.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And that cascades into adult life as well, mate. It's not just specific to children. You know, that's proactive risk management, through various different things. So, can you think of a personal experience where you've demonstrated resilience? What did you learn from that experience?
Off the top of my head, not really.
Okay.
I'll be honest, yeah.
So, do you want to throw it back to me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take the pandemic. Yeah. For me, that could have been an absolutely terrible time because, as you know, I was working in Dubai. I was in large scale entertainment. The show closed due to the rapid emergent threat globally of the pandemic. Now, in the UK, people were offered austerity, various different measures to support them if venues closed. In the UAE, as in Dubai where I was living, we were unpaid. You know, that took me 2 days to figure out what else I could do when we went into our initial lockdown. One of the things which embedded personal resilience and not just professional resilience was start utilizing my inner space, and my apartment in Dubai was a lot bigger than this, to start a fitness regime for me and my partner Marianne. Yeah. Every single day we got up, we showered, we had a routine. Yeah. We didn't vegetate in bed, feeling sorry for ourselves because we couldn't go out. We had a routine. I started to create engaging videos and various support structures, for my family back here in the UK. Yeah. But also, and more critically important, I started to research the impact of the pandemic and started to create strategies in my head and on paper to support the eventual reopening of the show. Because I knew for me and my peers. The reopening of the show would start our finances, but would also bring back the fun in our lives because it was a fantastic experience. Yeah. Now, during that time, I heard horror stories of people committing suicide in Dubai because they'd lost their jobs or they were put on unpaid leave. Yeah. I didn't let that happen for me, my partner, and I tried so hard from a distance to support my family, including teaching martial arts virtually with my dad for his companies, and also doing family Tai Chi on a Wednesday to lift people up, which I think is proactive, resilience. Okay, so what about mentorship? Is that super important in building resilience among youth? Can you share examples of a mentor's influence on your life?
Okay. So yeah, I think mentorship is crucial to a young person developing resilience for a multitude of reasons. Young people, because they're young, don't have a lot of life experience in the variety of ways that an older person might have. And of course, yeah, there are older people without that much life experience as well, but generally older people have more. And so it is important. I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary, but it is important for a younger person to have a mentor to develop resilience because it will make that journey
So
easier.
what about relevant to you? Who would you class as your mentors or mentor in your life?
I think you're a pretty good mentor to me.
Okay.
I'd say. Yeah.
What about your mum?
Yeah, as well.
I'd say she was a very robust mentor for you as well.
Yeah.
And other people who've helped you to achieve various different aims. What about failure and your personal perception on failure and how that impacts your resilience?
Okay, so failure is something that a lot of people dread, myself included. I'll be fully honest. I do not, intrinsically, I do not like to fail. I hate failure, like within me. That's just me being totally honest. And I do have a fear of failure, as do a lot of people around the world. But it's important to also be mindful that failure isn't like the be all end all. Everybody does make mistakes. However, the real thing in there is, how do people adapt and overcome the problem that led to that mistake? How do they fix their mistakes in the future so they can be a better person, they can do better in their job, they can do better in relationships, this and that. Whatever problems people encounter, how can they do better in the future when they encounter that problem? That is what defines the difference between some people and others, in my view.
Well, I'd agree. And I can certainly relate to what you said, that people don't like failure. Yeah. For me, it started very early on when I failed my orange tab, and it kind of destroyed me and started to make me feel like an imposter in everything I did. But because I joined the army, I very quickly started to not really see failure in that way anymore. I started to look at, or critically look at, things as opportunities to constantly improve.
Yeah.
And that radiated from those early experiences to when I was teaching in Dubai. Every lesson, every subject that I taught, or in fact on consultancy projects, I always wanted to be better than the last. I always wanted to look at new and inspiring ways to teach people. Yeah, to give them the best, because obviously they were imparting money onto me to do that, and I wanted to be the best version of myself all the time.
Yeah.
And it's very important to get rid of the negative aspects of failure, because you're absolutely right. Failure is a given in everything we do, but it's also a beautiful opportunity. Yeah. Like a lot of people are talking about the pandemic as it was fake, it was this, it was this. For me, it was probably the most unique near miss opportunity we've ever had to critically look at how we respond and thrive, not just recover, from globally impactful events like the pandemic. Yeah. So that's super, super, super important. And I'm very proud that you highlighted that as opportunistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do societal expectations shape the way your generation approaches challenges and adversity?
Okay, well, to begin with, let's look at technology. Old generations did not have technological capability that we do now when they were the age of the younger generations are currently. That kind of creates a sense of, oh, you've got it easier. You have all the world's information at your fingertips, so you should be able to do this, or you should be able to do that. If I was your age, I'd be doing this, I'd be doing that, I'd be doing all this, I'd be achieving this, I'd be achieving that. But in reality, it's not like that, because despite these capabilities, what works in the world and with people and what doesn't is pretty much the same. And so it's a heightened expectation that because the world, yeah, it's changed, but certain things still remain the same. A lot of young people will naturally fail to meet those incredibly high expectations, and that puts a lot of pressure on young people to achieve what they feel like is the impossible, basically. And that has an impact on mental health, because if you're constantly feeling like you're a failure and you're constantly, not living up to your heightened expectations of yourself, you will not, the feel good hormones will not be in you, because you're not doing anything that makes you feel good. So therefore, it can't happen. And that will destroy mental health over time,
So,
which leads to an unhealthy person.
how do you counter that? As in you, how do you counter it?
Me
Because you
personally,
face challenges, you face risks, you face negativity and positivity every single day. We absorb, we radiate, we absorb, we radiate all the time.
yeah.
So, how do you deal with these things?
Me personally, I think I like to sit there and I like to think of what's happened to me over the past few weeks, months, days, years, hours, whatever time frame you want to use. I think not just of the negative, but also of the positives that you can find, and think hard and think deep of the positives that you can find, and exponentiate those in your mind to make yourself feel good. Because if you're not gonna take advantage of the feel good that life can provide, what's the point of living at all? So you've got to do that, and you've got to put yourself first.
I do exactly the same. I try not to view things as a negative.
Yeah.
I try not to use the word, unless I'm explaining things like this, negative. I prefer to use the word opportunity, because I see everything that happens, be it positive or negative, as learning lessons. If you embrace them like that, instead of dripping just about that thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. What about schools and what role they play in teaching resilience and coping strategies to students?
Okay, well, let's begin with the fact that young people's brains are very malleable. And it's very easy to get a young person to think a certain way. And so schools, as being responsible for a young person's care for 6 hours of the day, 5 days a week, from the ages of 2 or 3 to 16 or 18, depending on
So, do
how
they
long they stay.
teach resilience coping strategies to students? And if they do, how? What teaching methodologies do they use?
I think as part of the school's responsibility to a student to look after that student, yeah, they do. They do attempt, and oftentimes quite successfully, try and teach resilience as the way that they see it, in school and academics, but also not just academics, in your social life as well. Resilience. So some of the methodologies that they use team building activity. Team building activities. They use group activities. They use lectures, seminar style kind of things. They use videos from the internet, things like that. I think they find useful in teaching resilience to a young person. Yeah.
I want to touch on a point that you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about young people's brains being really malleable and in some ways manipulated to do certain things and to think in certain ways.
Yeah.
Do you not think that that's the whole of our current society that we live in the UK, though? People are, intrinsically triggered by the headline.
Yeah.
Or somebody speaking with half-truths or in fact falsehoods on social and mainstream media without critically thinking about what they're seeing or reading or being presented with. They become triggered by just that headline without taking, as we used to call in the military, a condom moment to actually think, how does that resonate with me? Do I need to do my own research before I make an informed decision? Do you think that societally, critical thinking needs to also improve to ensure resilience?
Oh yeah, of course, because if you can't think for yourself, then you can't really be resilient, can you? Because resilience is all about thinking for yourself, in yourself. What's going on here? What's my strategy for attacking this problem? If it's not working, how can I change it? Should I take the problem head on? Should I turn back from the problem? Should I go around the problem? There's different strategies, and you need to find the one that best works. And if you can't think for yourself, then you can't do that because your critical thinking is just not there.
Yeah. Look at it positive instead of negative.
Yeah.
Opportunity instead of negativity. Which nicely leads into our final question. Looking ahead, what changes do you think need to happen in society to better support resilience for future generations, not just your generation? So your children, your children's children,
Yeah.
my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren.
Yeah, so it's a hard one because we as a society have become so used to having a lack of resilience in our lives. And so to best implement resilience into our society, it would need a complete, values overhaul, because modern values, like as in values of 2024 UK, are not, as in the vast majority of the population, are not compatible with, resilience. However, I would like to add that resilience can be improved if, teachers, because schools have their role in this as well. The education system is, in my opinion, the most important system in this country, especially with young people, because they are the future. So teachers need to be made more aware of the importance of resilience in day-to-day life, in work, in social life, in relationships, in this and that. And it needs to be taught more. Not just as a one-day thing, but every single day it needs to be implemented in all lessons.
It needs to be implemented in a positive way.
Yeah.
At the moment, we are just seeing trigger after trigger after trigger. Politicians, instead of focusing on debating the current governing party on their issues, are going after other things to discredit them, to get them out of politics quickly. Yeah. Which is what a lot of political parties do throughout the world. Resilience starts with self. How can I better improve not just my environment, but the environment of the people that I interact with? Yeah. Because by verbal and non-verbal body language, we can either uplift or subvert so many different people that we meet in everyday life. It's sometimes not what we say, but how we say it. Yeah. The same phrase, the same sentence can have so many different meanings dependent on the rhythm, speed, volume, pitch, and the body language of how somebody actually imparts that message. And we saw that earlier on today when we were wandering around teaching you how to present in front of the camera. Yeah. And you saw, through critiquing your own video feedback, the distinct changes that made it from engaging to, wow, this guy is now super boring. Yeah. Now, flip the switch on that and think about how people view you. Unfortunately, and in most cases, first impressions do last. But first impressions can change as well, dependent on how you change.
Yeah.
You know, resilience is not just about how can I make myself more robust. It's how can I ensure me and the people around me continue to thrive. Yeah. And through technology, it's easier to touch the hearts of people in so many different parts of the world from where you are. So you've got a brilliant opportunity that I didn't have when I was your age. Through things like social media technology. You know, fantastic opportunity. Right. So that's the end of this resilient video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe. It means so much to me. It helps me to continue to make content like this or to improve content. If you have any constructive criticism or positive comments, please add them below. Ding that bell and please, please, please do what you can to ensure resilience in your life and the life of those around you. You know, every little does a lot. Thank you. Good effort.